Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and 2021 is almost over. So congratulations, clap, 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 we all made it. Obviously, I'm joking. 2020 is almost over. I swear to God, I'm not from the future, or at least I'm telling you I'm not, okay? But here is the big deal, guys, okay? Today, I sat down and I broke down all my goals and all of my terrible ideas. And by the way, I do this every single year. Just because an idea seems to be good, I never hold on to it unless it makes sense. And since every single year I'm reading more and learning more, a lot of the great ideas I thought I had, guess what? They're not actually that great. So every year I'm throwing away ideas constantly. But you know, when I first got to America, guys, I stayed with my grandfather and he actually owned a house. I also stayed with my aunt and she actually rented for her entire life, right? And the answer was, hey, you know what? Owning is a lot better. You want to own your house, but guess what? The math does not show that. In reality, sometimes renting is a lot more better depending on what your goals are, where you live, and what the average price for rent and also buying a house actually is. And that's why today, I'm telling you guys, between the next 3 to 8 years, your boy is not actually going to go ahead and buy a home. And today, I'm going to break down all the math. And by the way, if you guys are new here, I'm not from the future, I promise, but make sure to also subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified, and top out also destroy the like button for the YouTube algorithm. By the way, we are almost at 300K. So thank you guys so much for all the support. I really, really appreciate it. Now, the very first thing is this, guys. My favorite word is run the numbers. And by the way, there's actually 2 words, okay? But the answer is numbers need to make sense, and that's how you reach a decision, usually, okay? Not always. But the idea is that usually people say, for example, hey, if you rent, all your money is being thrown in the garbage. If you buy a home, the big chunk of your mortgage is being thrown into capital buildup, or for example, equity buildup. Basically, you're actually starting to own that home more and more and more. But in reality, both of those statements are actually wrong, incorrect, not right at all. Because here is a real life example, guys. As you guys know, I'm moving to Fort Myers next year around June-ish, okay? 2021, okay? I'm not from the future. I said that already. But the answer is that, guess what? 300K in Fort Myers will get me something like around this, okay? 300K, a home like this. Pretty nice, awesome home. I like it. But guess what? When you actually include CITI, which is basically capital payments, interest payments, taxes, and insurance, this will cost me around $1,395 every single month with the mortgage and everything included in there. Now, if I said no, I don't want to do this, I'm actually going to go ahead and actually rent. Guess what? I'll rent something like this for around $1,350. So not so bad, not so great, obviously a lot more smaller, but in reality, that's my budget when it comes to buying and also renting. And it sounds like, hey Tommy, so you're telling me that you're not gonna buy a house because basically it's gonna cost you $50 extra? That sounds stupid, right? It does sound stupid. And on top of that, if you buy a house every single month, you're paying $422 towards equity buildup. That's awesome. So why wouldn't you actually want to do that? Well, it's because that math is deceiving when you look at it just from that perspective. But the truth is, guys, that according to this calculator right here, by the way, right here, guys, okay, basically, in the first 8 years of renting is going to be cheaper than actually buying. Tommy, how is that possible? Because basically, look at this, guys, okay? Overall, my rent is going to go up. Obviously, we know that. But in reality, I'll spend around $139,000 on rent. Well, if I buy a home, I'll spend around $138,000. So basically saying, Tommy, but are you stupid? Because basically, you're going ahead and spending more money towards rent and you didn't build up any equity whatsoever. So that makes no sense. So why not just go ahead and spend $138,000 on a home you'll buy versus $139,000 on a home that is basically just renting and you don't actually own anything whatsoever? Well, the answer, guys, is pretty simple. And here is the truth, guys, okay? Because basically, what they don't tell you is that, hey, in the first year of owning this house, I'm going to be required to pay around $69,000, 20% down payment, so that's $60K, and also $9K towards the entire closing fees. Now, what exactly does this mean? It means that on top of that, I paid in 8 years $138,000, but in reality, I only paid down around $45,000 in my equity buildup. Tommy, what do you mean? Where is the rest of the money? You paid $138,000, right? The answer is that, guess what, okay? Well, I paid taxes, also insurance, and also interest on top of my capital pay down. In reality, the bank interest was around $50,000 in those 8 years. On top of that, taxes were around $31,000, and also insurance was around $7,400. So guess what? Although I paid $60K, so the loan's around $240, and I paid $138,000 over 8 years, I still owe the bank around $194,000 because basically $31K went towards taxes, $50,000 went towards interest, and guess what? The bank and taxes made a ton of money off of me, and I only really missed out in those 8 years only around $45,000 in equity buildup. And that is where the big problem actually is. So when you think about, hey, 8 years, 138 versus 139, in reality, 139 went towards renting, yes, but that 138 is not all capital build up, okay? Basically, because hey, the bank gets paid, taxes gets paid, insurance gets paid, maintenance, everything included, not even included to this equation right here, but all those things have to be accounted for within that 8-year period, which basically means the bank gets to make a ton of money from me. Now, let's say, for example, I rented. What would be the best idea here? Well, the answer is, hey, I would invest my money, obviously, and invest the difference, obviously, right? So guess what? If I went ahead and I invested that $69,000, right, over 8 years, that money would grow into around $147,000 over that 8-year period at a 10% return, including dividends actually invested. That is the cool thing. But not just that, guys, okay? If I said, hey, you know what? In 8 years, I actually want to buy this house for cash. All mine. My house, my property. No one has anything to do with it, right? No bank, no anything. Well, in reality, all I have to do is invest that $69,000 that I would pay anyways, plus invest $1,108.30 over that 8-year period every single month, and in 8 years, I would have $300,000, enough to go ahead and buy that house in full. And that's why, guys, okay, in reality, renting is always going to be cheaper in the short term. And buying is always going to be cheaper in the long run. And by the way, guys, okay, in 30 years of me paying this mortgage, I would pay the bank around $117,000, meaning they would make a 48% profit off of me. But if I did it this way, in 8 years, guess what? I rented, yes, and I missed out on $45K of equity, but I also saved a ton of money on top of that. And then I can go ahead and buy that house for cash, and then my only payment is around $403 every single month, and that's just only taxes and also my insurance on that property, not including maintenance and so on. But tell me, yeah, okay, I get that. But if you go ahead and buy a property for cash, $300K, well, you're missing out on all the investment gains you could potentially have. Well, in reality, that's not true. And here's why. Because if my payments are only $403 every single month, and I'm not paying $1,395 every single month towards the mortgage, in reality, what does this mean? It means that, hey, I pay $1,395 on the mortgage, including taxes and everything, right? Minus what I'm actually paying now, which is basically $403 every single month, because basically I paid cash. That gives me extra money of around $992. Now, if I grab the difference and I invested this money over the next 30 years, how much money would I have then? The answer is I would have around $2.1 million, meaning that if I bought a house in 8 years cash and invested the difference, I would have around $2.1 million in 30 years. On top of that, my money, that $300K, would appreciate towards around $543K at a 2% appreciation rate every single year, which is according to real estate, right? And that's the whole idea. So in 30 years, right, I own my house. I also have $2.1 million in the stock market. And on top of that, my home appraised up to around $543,000. So in the end, I like a lot the long-term math. Now, that's not all, right? Because basically, I still have extra money. With that money, I could either go ahead and invest more money or buy rental property with a similar formula. But this way, I'm not giving all my money to the bank. But tell me, that's not right. Because overall, whenever you pay interest, that's also deductible in taxes. So you save money on taxes. When in reality, if I told you that if you spend $1, you get back 30 cents, does that sound like a good deal to you? Most likely no, right? Because why would you spend $1 to get back 30 cents with taxes, right? That's how much you're actually gonna save. It's not as simple as saying, hey, whatever I pay in interest, I save in taxes. It's not that simple. It's not that equation. In reality, for every $1 you spend, you get around a 30 to 40 cent savings when it comes to taxes. So it's not that simple. And that's why in reality, I rather wait and buy a house for cash. Sounds crazy, I know, but buy a house for cash in 4 to 8 years. And by the way, with my math and my real numbers, in 4 to 8 years, I'll have invested around $2.5 million. That's how cool it is. And then I can go ahead and buy that house for cash, keep investing. But on top of that, with my portfolio being that big, I have around 100K salary every single year passively coming in. Whether today I put down 69K, pay down the mortgage, if anything breaks down, I have to pay for it. It just doesn't make sense right now. And that's why the numbers say, hey, it's better to go ahead and rent. And by the way, imagine if I live in New York, which I do today, and I bought a house for 500K versus just renting an apartment for $1,500. The answer is the math would be a lot worse, to the point where, well, let's just go ahead and do the numbers, okay? If I went ahead, guys, and bought a house in the Bronx, New York, right? Bronx, New York, and I would pay, by the way, in this apartment we rent, by the way, it's very unique, right? But right here, there's a 2-bedroom, and we pay around $1,300. Very unique, okay? Like, not very average in New York. Usually, you're gonna pay a lot more. But the answer is, we only pay around $1,300 a year for rent, right? But guess what? If I bought the home where we actually live right now, this one would cost around $550,000. That's how much money it actually is. To put down a down payment, I need around $110,000. Closing costs, everything included, is going to be a ton of money. So basically, if I went ahead and rented for 30 years, I would still be saving money by renting. Because basically, this home would cost me $1.5 million versus renting would only cost me $632K over a 30-year period. So basically, what I'm saying is, hey, the math is not always that simple. You want to go ahead and run the numbers. In this case, guess what? Renting is going to be a lot better over the long run. Meaning I can take the average and just go ahead and keep renting, also investing and investing and investing. So if I stay in New York, obviously I would have to rent and not buy a house. But if I go to Florida, I can basically rent for a while, 4 to 8 years, and then go ahead and buy a house, keep investing, and before you know it, everything is taken care of. So by the way, I put the link to the calculator down below. That way you know the math also. But overall, your boy is not buying a house next year. Although it was my dream to own this liability, in reality now, the math just doesn't make any sense. And that's why I'm not buying a house until 4 to 8 years down the line. But I still do have the down payments. Actually, no, I'm going to invest that money also. By the time that time comes, I can go ahead and just buy a house for cash. That is my plan. But by next year, it might change. Because by next year, I might know something different. But I'm pretty sure it's not going to change. But the answer is, guys, the whole concept is that the math is not always simple. And that's why you always want to go ahead and run the numbers. And by the way, guys, overall, it's not just that, okay? But basically, in 4 to 8 years, I could have a lot more money from investments and then basically afford a bigger house for my family. The house I actually want. That way, everything is better. So it just makes more sense to just go ahead and invest the money for now and just be a little bit more patient. Yeah, it makes sense. But overall, guys, that's about it for this video. Comment down below. Let me know, are you going to buy or are you going to rent? And let me know why with numbers, math, and equations. Comment down below. By the way, it's just a calculator on Google. No real equations here, but just comment down below. Let me know. I want to know what you're going to do. And on top of that, if you like this video right here, guys, well, go ahead and like this video. On top of that, also, if you're new here, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. And if you want to text me or talk to me one-on-one, join my Patreon, link down below, or send me a DM on Instagram at TommyBryson. And before I go, if you want to know exactly how to save up the down payment for a house, here's that video right here. Click on it. See you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. And as always, peace.